hometown hero Floyd Bland. Born in Dresser, Illinois, a small town between Herrick and Ramsey. Born May 16, 1916, to Ezra Bland and Bertha Mae Smith Bland. Floyd's mother died on February 15, 1927, making Floyd 11 years old when he lost his mom. Upon his mother's passing, Ezra moved Floyd and his two younger brothers, Clarence and Harold, to Pana. Floyd's father then passed in 1934, 7 years later. Upon his dad's passing, Floyd joined the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was set up by President Franklin Roosevelt to help those during the Great Depression. Floyd worked planting trees and cleaning government property. While with the Civilian Conservation Corps, Floyd apparently did some traveling. It was at the age of 19, while working for the CCC, Floyd enlisted in the U.S. Army at Fort Sam Houston, Texas, on February 15, 1941, 10 months before the U.S. would join World War II. The Army trained PFC Bland as a mine planter. He arrived in the Philippines May 11, 1941, where he was assigned to the 809th Military Police. Floyd was stationed on the islands of Corregidor and Bataan. PFC Floyd Bland became a captured prisoner on April 9, 1942, when against General Douglas MacArthur's orders, Major General Edward P. King Jr. surrendered all U.S. forces to the Japanese Imperial Army. PFC Bland would spend the next 3.5 years as a guest of the Japanese Imperial Army. A POW, the Japanese Imperial Army prison, camp at OMI, Osaka Umeda POW camp. For 11 months, PFC Bland was listed as missing in action, and his family had no information about his well-being. Unbeknownst to them, he had become a POW. PFC Bland was released on June 7, 1945, and returned home September 21, 1945. Floyd returned home and settled into life in Pana. He married Velma Allen in 1948, and together they raised 8 children. Floyd worked in the coal mines. He was employed by Peabody Coal Company and worked in mine number 17. Floyd also worked in construction. When laid off in the winter, the family would go to Chicago. Both Floyd and Velma worked while in Chicago, making sure the needs of the family were met. Floyd, at the young age of 60, on January 24, 1977, Floyd had a heart attack while he was helping check on family and friends in a snowstorm. Floyd was laid to rest in Price Cemetery. Floyd left behind 8 children and 21 grandchildren. When Floyd left the military, he left with the following medals: a Distinguished Unit Badge, 2 oak leaf clusters, Good Conduct Medal, Philippine Defense Service Medal, 1 star, American Defense Service Medal, 1 star, and Asiatic Pacific Service Medal, American Theater Medal. Thank you, Floyd. Rest in peace. Hello there. We have 3 of Floyd's daughters with us, and we're going to kind of go around the table and have them introduce themselves, and then the other 5 kids that aren't with us. So, Penny, why don't you?
I'm Penny Brown, and I'm Dad's youngest, Floyd Bland's youngest.
I'm Barb Inman, and I'm Floyd's
Middle.
fourth
Middle.
one. That's fourth one.
Yeah.
Beverly Beck, and I'm down there someplace.
Well, now the other 5, could you give the names and,
I got Dorothy Sanders. She's passed away. And Roy Wilburn, he lives here in Pana. And Jack Wilburn lives here in Pana. Marvin Bland lives here in Pana. And Clifford passed away, Clifford Bland.
yeah,
He
Yeah.
was the next to the youngest.
okay,
He was the youngest boy,
They
right.
went boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl.
all the way down. 8 kids.
Yeah, well, I remember when I moved to Pana in 1968 from New York City, so it was kind of like I was the odd man out. I remember your dad, and he was very kind to me. You know, I was like, I didn't know anyone, but your dad was one of the first people I met, and he was a nice guy. He was very calm, and he treated me very well, and I appreciated that from him. I never forgot that. So as we discuss about your dad, let's face it, he had a rough way to go. Lost his mother before he was a teenager, lost his dad not too long after that, worked in CCC camps, was in the military, was a prisoner of war. He actually participated in the Bataan Death March, and but after he got out, and after he was released from prison and came back, that's when you guys kind of came into the picture shortly after that. And I'd like to discuss some of the memories that you may have. And I know he worked in the coal mine, and I know he worked construction, and I know you guys would go up to Chicago in the wintertime to just for him to take care of the family. So why don't you guys just kind of tell me about how you guys lived in Pana, where you lived, and anyone that wants to start.
You want to start first?
Well, we was really practically raised on Garfield Street. Our older brother still lives there. And we've lived out in the country, Secrets Farm, we lived there. A few other little places, but really Garfield Street was our
It was
That end of town, the
Yeah.
East End.
It was considered our homestead, really,
Yeah.
there.
because we'd move back in the same house when we'd leave. You know, because
Yeah.
we had bought it, you know.
Now Garfield Street, did they call that Honk End,
No,
or was that Flatham?
no, it wasn't either one.
It wasn't either one. It was on the north end though.
Yeah, Hunky Inn, it's out there on Locust,
Okay,
out on the South Locust and them.
and you guys were far east of that.
Yeah,
Okay,
We
They
was
called
out
it
by
the
the Rose, the greenhouse,
Yeah,
the
right.
big
Okay.
greenhouse on Garfield.
They
okay.
just always called it the East End.
The east
Yeah.
end, yeah.
Yeah, out by the Springside coal mine, right
Yes.
out there.
And then your dad worked in the coal mine, is that correct?
Yeah.
What, do you know what he did there, or?
Not really. I never did find out much about that. And in fact, I never even realized. I knew that he worked the coal mine. Mom told us, you know, growing up. But when I got my birth certificate and it says father's occupation, coal miner, then it started registering, because you don't really pay any attention to stuff when you're younger.
You don't remember him coming home with all the coal dust on him and stuff like that then? huh?
Well, now Barbara might, because she was older.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I wasn't that much older. I mean, you know, I was little.
yeah. So, 8 kids,
Uh-huh.
had to be a rough way to go. Working in a coal mine and working construction.
It was hard.
What'd you
Yeah.
do in the wintertime?
Well, when we went to Chicago, he worked in factories. He even die sanded some if you know what that is in a factory,
No, I don't know what that
where you
is.
set dies in the
Oh, okay,
machines.
okay,
He
yeah,
did that, and he worked at couple of different ones he'd always go back to. And Essex-War, that used to be here, it started in Chicago. Him and Mom and I both worked there when I got old enough.
Okay.
And we
Did
just,
they work at Zenith too?
no,
Or
me,
what-
Mom
me,
did.
Me and Mom did.
So-
After my older.
So you guys would
We go to
come to
school.
Pana and go to school in Pana,
And we go to school.
and
in
you would
Chicago.
also go to school in Chicago.
Yeah.
12 years of school, half here and half there.
Yeah.
Half here, but I have to give them credit. They did start moving us in the same area when they took
Yeah,
us
we-
back.
Yes.
So we would kind of,
Go to the same
Keep-
school?
well, yeah, and keep friends, you know.
Yeah.
keep
Oh, our
different
friends always waited on us up there when they always knew we'd be back.
Yeah.
It seemed like all of the streets that we lived on started with a K.
Yeah.
Keeler, Karlov, Kildare,
Yeah.
Cadville. They were all
Kenzie.
So it must have been quite a trip. What did you have a station wagon, or how'd you get
One
8 kids
time.
and a mom and dad up in Chicago?
Well, we had a station wagon in late years, but early on, we just had the old two-door, what was it, old Chevy, you called them, it was
They
on
were big.
52 model, I guess. And we lay up in the back window, and Mom would put blankets in the floorboard in the back, and then that'd make a bigger bed, so then we'd all stretch out, you know, all the way across the seat to the floorboard. Mom would have one up in the middle, usually Penny or Clifford would be up there. And then the rest of us would be just, it was exciting.
I guess so.
I mean, it really was. We loved it. I mean, I did.
We had relatives also though, that some of us could ride with. They was backwards, cause it seemed like we was always
Well, that was
making
in
our
later
trips
years.
back and forth at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't move back and forth like us.
No, they just come to visit.
Yeah, once in a while, but mostly, no, we did, we made it though, and we'd sing top of our lungs and drive Floyd crazy. He would never say nothing, Mom would get in there and sing too though, but we just played games and, you
What
know,
were some of the games you played on the trip?
oh
The
my.
greenhouse, you said?
Yeah,
Greenhouse.
greenhouse and,
We've seen it first.
yeah, and, that about the beetle bug, who seen the bug, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the silly games, really, we just made up in our head.
Did you get punched in the arm if you
Oh,
seen
yeah.
the beetle bug?
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I
We-
remember that.
We did a lot of singing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did do a lot of singing.
Oh, we did all the way up. No,
They was always trying to get me to sing.
I remember more when some of them started marrying off. And I
Yeah.
was like, you
yeah, we
know,
got more room.
that's when we got more room and more snacks.
More snacks. Okay.
Yeah, cause Dorothy was pretty young when she got married, so.
So when you would move to Chicago, you just like rent an apartment or a 3-flat or something like that?
Just an apartment,
Apartment.
And your mom would work and then come home and cook? And,
both of them, yeah. The older ones would take care of us younger ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Roy and Barbara and, well, Dorothy got married and then Jackie, he would go to work, but more or less them would take care of us younger four.
Yeah.
We weren't the only ones that lived there though. We had family from here,
Oh, yeah.
friends and family would move up there. And Mom and Floyd would take them in and let them
Oh, we
stay
could-
there till they got on their feet
Yep.
and got a place. I don't know how many families from here lived with us up there, but they did. And
Yep.
when it was something else.
Families, and then all the kids' friends, they'd bring up the older ones. Marvin would bring his friends, and then Beverly would bring her friends.
But
And but they took everybody in,
Anybody,
you know.
you know,
We
just,
did that in Pana too. We
What did
always-
they call Floyd, the gentle giant? Is
yeah.
there- Why
Yeah.
did they call him that?
Well, he was just a quiet
Oh.
man. He never started no trouble.
I
He
know.
was just a good man. I mean,
I don't
never-
think there was ever
was-
any enemies he
No.
had at all.
no,
He was never grouchy.
no.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he was like a lot of the people nowadays, you know, like you bring a young kid home, Mom, I want somebody to stay all night. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna let you stay all night. He was never like that.
No, he,
Anybody and I mean, I don't care
Oh, my
who
friend
you was
Calvin.
welcome. I mean,
he,
I couldn't even name all the people that stayed with us. I really couldn't.
Well, I can't. A lot of them's gone. Maybe Allen. You remember him? He's an older gentleman. He lived with Bill Terry. He lived with us. Stuart Buckley from Springfield. He lived with us. They were all just
Opal.
Opal
Russell.
Russell.
lived with us. Buck did too for a while.
And Brenda lived with us with Opal.
Earl Bland.
Buddy
Earl
Moore.
Bland moved in, his family with us up there.
Even Bobby Moore stayed with us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Dr.
I mean-
Lawrence Moore, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And Gloria Palmer, you know her?
I know the
She
name.
was married to Phil Palmer.
Yes.
Just be Gloria
Oh,
Monday.
she just loved Dad to death. She's a good friend of mine. I ran with her since I was about 14. She would come up there and stay with us. We'd go to work, you know, just and we had a 2-bedroom apartment at that time.
We even had Zip Coleman, Mike Coleman living with us.
Yeah.
but he had a rule though, us older kids. We weren't, I wasn't. Now Dorothy got married at 15. I wasn't allowed to date till I was 16. And I snuck off, I can remember. I didn't sneak, I went to the fairground and Pat Longwell, you remember Bill Longwell, the lawyer, his son Pat? Well, he just wanted me to ride the Ferris wheel. Well, I thought, well, yeah. We get up on the Ferris wheel and I looked down and, oh my goodness. I told Dad, I said, don't have the Ferris wheel go down now, keep us on top. It was my dad, Floyd, down there looking for me.
Looking for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but he never, you know, never whipped us or never, you know, he was just,
I
he's
think.
always concerned about us, you know.
Well, sure he was. I think going through some of the things that he went through,
Yeah.
he really had a better insight
Right.
on what was important and what wasn't important.
Yeah.
You know, after you've been on the things that he's been on and gone through, it's just it made him a better man out of him.
Yeah.
A lot of people that didn't survive it, a lot of people might have got bitter over it.
He never-
Like you said, can you tell a story about when you were in Chicago and there was a German?
Yeah.
Can you tell that story too?
Yeah, I think I was about 16 then. And right, the guy next door to us, he was German. He had been a German soldier. And him and Dad, I mean, it confused me, you know. I thought, man, he's gonna harbor, you know, just
Feelings. and
feelings,
stuff.
yeah. But he didn't. I come home one day and hear these two sitting out on the porch, on our porch, drinking a beer together, talking just like we are.
Yeah.
And after the guy left, I wasn't rude or anything. After the guy left, I asked Dad, because we didn't really know him, because you don't get to know your neighbors up there. I mean, you could have a serial killer next to you and you wouldn't even know it.
Yeah.
But I asked Dad, I said, Dad, I said, don't you have any hard feelings towards him? He was fighting on the German side. And Dad told me, he says, no, Beverly, he says, I don't. He said he was just doing what he had to do for his country, the same as I was doing what I had to do. And, you know, I think that made me realize you don't judge other people and hold grudges.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't do it.
He never did hold a grudge.
No,
No,
I'm
Dad
not.
never
No,
did.
I can never hear. I can't remember.
I think that's why we were talking a little bit, why he checked on all the kids every day,
Yeah.
because of what he did go through in that prison camp.
Yeah.
I believe that he wanted to make sure that we never done without food. And he would make his rounds, and if we needed milk or bread, he was making his way to the grocery store.
So you guys were always well fed,
Oh yeah.
taken
Oh,
taken
yeah.
good care of, because he knew what it was like to be hungry and do without.
You
We
know,
never went without food, did we?
no, did you remember the letter that we read from him, the Red Cross sent? Well, anyway, you remember that he said that his first check, he sent home Harold, that's his youngest brother, Bland, a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
He never had no shoes till then. Can you imagine?
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
his first pair of shoes.
So even before he went overseas,
yeah.
he grew up poor.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they was hard workers.
But I can remember when him and Mom would have a little spat. First thing Dad would do, he'd go to the store and he'd come back with sacks of groceries. I don't know why, but he'd always have sacks of groceries.
I was the youngest, and he would take me to the grocery store with him. And he didn't care what I put in. There'd be 2 of everything, you know, and we had that cart full, and he never told me no. And then it's just like,
Well,
he just was like wanting to make sure, I don't know, I think it had a lot to do with he just didn't want us doing without. And then there was a time that I remember when we lived over by where the BP is now, there was a red house, 2-story house. We rented off of Thelma Patton. I was young then, and I wanted a Penny Bright doll for Christmas. And over at the grocery store, they had it up on the shelf. And I told Mom and Dad I wanted that, and Dad come home and he goes, well, he goes, I have to tell you that doll's gone. Somebody bought it already. And I said, what? And I went over there and I looked, and that doll was gone. And I come back and I threw the biggest fit, because, you know, I was little. I was crying, Dad, that doll, you know, and I told you. Well, he just couldn't take my heart being broken. He brought that doll out, and he went ahead and gave it to me before Christmas.
Well, you know, there was a lot of lean years when we were little. I mean, they might not remember, but when all 8 of us, you know, $40 a week,
That's not much.
driving to Decatur and back,
Yeah.
and feeding 10 people. And if we had a stray there, he fed them too. So we didn't have no rich life, you know. It was just, you know, there was a lot of lean times, but we made it through and we loved it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have traded it for nothing.
I mean, we didn't go get new clothes or new furniture or anything like that. It was mostly food. You know, we was always well fed.
My father grew up poor, real poor in New York, and he used to tell me, say, you know, during the Depression, everybody was crying the blues and complaining. He said, it didn't change our life at all. He said, that's just the way we lived.
Yeah.
We didn't know we were poor. That's just the way it was. So, you know,
That's
I
why
think,
we looked at it
yeah,
too. You know,
yeah, it's,
Well, we had Uncle Clarence, Dad's brother.
yeah,
He owned a construction company, and anytime we needed help, now him and Ida was right there for us. They
Yeah.
were, and stuff. And you know, they seen to it that Dad had or Clarence seen to it that Dad had a job when he needed it and stuff like that. So we were very fortunate like that.
yeah. Well, he took care of them, you know, and they remembered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Now, Clarence, was that relation to Dick and
That's
all
their
that?
dad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, can you kind of, Penny, you were telling us a few days before your dad passed and what happened, and
Well-
could you tell us? I mean, I know it's hard, but
That, well, I asked, well, what was really strange, I never mentioned this before, but what was really strange was I lived in the housing then.
yeah,
And Dad came over that morning and he changed the light bulb for me. Well, at that time, I was married to somebody else, and we were sitting there playing Crazy 8. And I didn't hear no sirens or nothing, and this was just right across the street from where he passed away. And then until Beverly come and got me later. But what had happened, I found out, Darlene Richardson and her mom got stuck up by the People's Bank, and she said that that same day that he had pushed, she said he actually lifted up the back end of the car and then went to the front and lifted it up and moved it over so they could, the wheels over, and they got out, and she thinks that he followed them so far to make sure they were gonna make it home because they lived in the same end of town we did.
Now, this was a snowstorm, right?
Yeah, this was that snowstorm, that bad snowstorm, and then.
In 77.
Yeah, in 77. And then I found out after he had done that, then he got stuck across from Linus Matthews coming out of the community building alley. And he got stuck right there, and a cousin of mine, Herb Haynes, he said that he stopped to help push him out. Well, Dad got cold and he went into Linus's garage and asked to warm his hands up, and they were real close anyways. And then that's the last time he just fell over, I think, from too much strenuous on his heart, and out in that snow and his hands was cold. I don't remember, he probably didn't have gloves on, I don't know. But that's just the way he was. He would help anybody he would see.
So he was checking on friends and family, make sure that they were okay, and
He went to, he probably made it to your house that day, and
He didn't make it to my house because I just got out of the hospital, but he came up to see me the day before I got out of the hospital. And that
He
was
just
when
left
he
my
told me his
house
legs
for
was
years.
hurting. I tried to even go to the doctor and he wouldn't go.
I imagine a lot of, at 60 years old, after what he'd been through in that prisoner of war camp, I imagine it took a big toll on his body,
yes,
and he was a big man, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I mean,
not no fat. He
Yeah.
wasn't fat.
no, he wasn't fat.
To
How
me-
tall was he?
Probably 6.
About 6'1", wasn't he?
No, he was 6'2" at least, or 6'3".
I don't know,
yeah.
I know he was 6 foot at least.
Yeah. No, he
I don't
was
know
over
the
that.
inches, but
I just remember him
Yeah.
as a big man.
that might
But I
be.
mean, he probably didn't weigh hardly anything when he got out of that
No.
prisoner of war camp.
No.
And it probably took a toll on his body that that's probably what
Yeah.
contributed to him having that heart attack when he did.
He always reminded me of John Wayne. He
Yeah.
had features just like him. And I had a friend in Chicago that she used to come down to my house and she'd sit there and just glare at him. What's the matter with you, Janet? She says, your dad looks so much like John Wayne. And he did. He just had the features and stuff.
I was in the park when we hung his banner in the park, and it was a good day. It was a real good day when we did that. I believe your Clayton was hanging it too. So
Yeah.
my son.
yeah, that was a good time. In fact, you got to get Clayton to play taps for us so we could have it on video.
Well,
He asked about that.
He asked me that today, and because he was at the house, and I said, I don't know.
Yeah, we've been wanting him to do it. We
I'll
just
tell
haven't
him.
been able to. So if you could have Clayton get a hold of the director here,
Okay.
we'll definitely need to get that done.
Alright.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about your growing up years or anything that you can remember?
No,
All
just
right.
maybe in a daddy's girl.
He used to take
I
us
don't
down to the creek, and they'd teach us how to swim. Well, he never taught her.
Not
She
me.
wouldn't swim, but I was young.
I never could.
And we'd always go down to the creek, going down towards the Price Cemetery. There's a creek there.
Beck's Creek?
Well, no, it was just a little creek before you got to there. It's still there.
Okay.
And we used to go down there and we'd swim, and we'd go camping. He would take us camping.
Yeah.
And this was
Rams Bridge
yeah,
a
but
lot.
that's where we went. And Linus and Dorothy Matthews and Buck and Opal and Earl Bland. Let's see, and who all went? Whole
There was a
gang of
bunch
us.
of us.
The whole banks were just covered. we didn't have tents or nothing back then. So we'd either sleep in the car, whoever could, or on the ground,
Or on the
hood.
car.
And I mean, living so, and Dorothy would always get up, Dorothy Matthews, and she'd have that fire going. The guys would be out fishing. It'd be early in the morning, and she'd build a big bonfire up. Had the biggest skillets of bacon and eggs a going. All them was good days. I mean, we just had a great time like that. I mean, and he always did things with us. We didn't have bikes and stuff like that growing up when we was little, but we would make a tar swing. He would for us. You know, we just well, we played with sticks and stuff like a lot of kids back then. You know.
And when we would swim down there at Rems Bridge, we went on the other side of it, and there was a sandbar down there.
I know exactly where that
He
is.
would teach us.
Yeah.
He'd take
He
us
tried
kids
to
in there.
teach me,
And,
I couldn't never catch him.
I don't remember Mom ever getting in there swimming. I don't even know if she could swim.
Yeah,
but
Mom swam. But
he
she didn't
always
get in
got.
there
He
much.
always was in there with doing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Was the cross there then? I don't think it was.
No,
it?
I don't think
Have
so.
you been down there lately?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were there not too
Yeah.
long.
yeah, the cross wasn't there then.
He taught me how to float on my back. I could swim.
That's
and
the first
everything.
thing he taught all of us
Yeah,
kids.
he said you're going to learn how to float on your back. So you never know when something happens.
Yeah.
You get on your back and you'll make it.
I never
And
did
I
that.
did. I love to float on my back right to this day.
Not me. I
I've
can't.
done that with my grandkids because I remember him always telling us, if you get in the water and you get in trouble, you don't panic. You can
Right.
survive. You just
Yeah.
float on your back.
Just relax.
And he could lay there for an hour on his back.
Now, Wren Bridge was south of Herrick and east of Ramsey on the Kaskaskia River.
Right.
Right? And a lot of people from Pana. And,
Oh, yeah.
well, actually, Floyd kind of grew up right around
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
Dresser, Illinois. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Wren Bridge. I spent a lot of time there.
We did a lot.
I used to like there was a stream, a spring that came out, and it still comes out today, and it's just the cleanest, purest water. And a lot of times I'd go down there, and if my hands hurt or anything, I'd put my hands in that water for a
It's a
minute
healing.
or two, and it'd take the pain
The
away.
Indians always called it healing water. See,
Healing
that's where
water?
their camp was when the Indians were here.
Oh,
They
okay.
camped down there, and they always called it the healing water.
Yeah.
I always told my grandkids about that too. And I have a granddaughter that lives over by Raymond. She goes down there once a month and fills her
A lot of people do.
jugs up, and that's the only water she will drink.
I got 2 5-gallon jugs in my basement
Oh,
of
really?
that water, so yeah.
Yeah, it's good fresh water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I sure appreciate you taking the time to come here and talk about your dad, and we just we can't think. I mean, we think a lot about your dad. Actually, the whole family, really. So appreciate everything, and if there's anything else that you could think of, you could talk about it now. We would like for you to gather up some pictures. Maybe take a couple of these pictures that you brought up. But Penny, if you could find that poem.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna look for that.
Yeah.
I can remember one thing before we leave about, like you said, out there on Garfield Street where my brother lives was on the old homestead. And Dad, he would, with all of us kids at home, I mean, it only had 2 bedrooms, you know. He had cut a hole in the floor, made in the attic, made it like I guess a bedroom for all of us. We each had our own beds, and it was all the way around. We'd go up there, but he was one thing that he was particular about is for us kids. He wanted us the kids to sort our own clothes and put them away.
Oh, my.
Every Sunday he would throw them clothes downstairs. Now you sort your own clothes and you fold them up and you go put them away. Well, the next Sunday the same clothes was coming right back downstairs.
He taught us a lot. He'd have us marching
Oh,
and with his rifle, he'd show us how to,
Yeah.
you know, hold it and march.
yeah.
He always taught us how to do that. And then he'd teach us how to count
in Japanese.
Hit
Yeah.
your knees, saw.
Ichini.
Yeah.
Ichini.
He taught us all
or
that.
something. It was just-
And he would do that. He'd march with that gun, and we would too. It wasn't loaded, you know, but he taught us
yeah, he-
how to do it and how to carry it on your shoulder and
Did
how to
he-
really march.
Did he have animosity against the Japanese that you know of?
No.
Now
Amazing.
he
No,
really never
thanks.
In fact, Mom's cousin, when
married one.
a married Japanese
Oxico.
one, Oxico. Oh, she
Harlow.
was
Yeah,
the Harlow.
Tommy.
She was
Tommy.
so sweet.
yeah.
They,
Ashiko.
they lived up Chicago with us for a while too.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Uncle Tom, his dad,
Yeah.
the old Tom.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
He come up there and stayed
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah, he never, I don't think he had any bad feelings toward anybody.
No. I can remember.
If he did, I don't remember it.
Now, I can remember him teaching me to make a bed when I was about 13.
Oh,
Oh, man.
Bounce a quarter off of it.
Oh, gosh. I had to spend a whole day trying to make that bed, and I never did get it right. Never did get it right.
I'm still right today. I don't like a wrinkle or a crease in my bed. Everybody gets mad. They hate making my bed because I like it tight, boy. I just always have. Yeah,
He was always working on something. When he wasn't working at the job, he was underneath the car,
Oh.
wiring it up with a clothes hanger or something. The mufflers all the time. You know.
Baling wire and
Bale,
duct tape.
yeah, whatever it was he used, he
I can remember just before he passed away, he had this one car and he was going to sell it. And they lived up on Jackson Street by where Rocky's is, that house next door there. That's where he lived when he
That's
passed
where
away.
we were living. I
But-
was living with him.
Mom would tell him, well, there's somebody out there to see that car, Floyd. You better go tell him, you know, let him see it. He goes out there and he tells him, everything's wrong with it. Nothing right. And there wasn't really nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But he would name everything, and Mom would say, you're never going to sell that car, Floyd, if you don't.
Is that the one he gave me?
Yeah, you ended up giving it to you.
He couldn't sell it, so you got it. You probably drove it for a long time.
I drove it for quite a while.
Yeah.
I was helping Mom at the nursing home, that old Ashcraft building.
Right down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a night watchman with a flashlight going through the dark. Can you imagine that? It was scary. But yeah,
Oh, there were some good times, really.
Oh yeah.
And Dad was older, like we said. He was like in his what was he, 34? He was 34 when I was born, so he was, what, 32? Whenever he married Mom. Well, he was in his 30s anyhow.
Yeah.
And just,
I don't know.
he
how
was
old
quite a
he
bit
was
older
when-
than her.
He couldn't have been 32, Beverly.
Well, I don't know.
Well, he was
brain-
born in 1916, I believe.
And I was
Yeah.
born in 57, so how old was he when I was
you
born?
was born in what?
52.
I'd have to do my
See,
math, I can't
He was
figure.
older than that.
Well,
Oh, now we're getting to tell our age. We-
He
yeah.
used to make us sliding boards out of old boards, you know,
Yeah.
and we'd play on them. Of course, I went down one, had a big nail in it, tore my leg open. I had to get out and how many stitches. But he always made toys for us, you know, just homemade stuff. He
You
would,
remember Dean Hills?
yes.
Mhm.
that big
Oh,
slide
yeah, we
down.
went down
Yeah.
there.
I got a picture of that slide
Yeah, I
in the
seen
museum. Did you
that,
see
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
It was a great big slide that was on the top of a real tall
Yeah,
hill.
we used to go down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took us, him and Mom took us down there, and that was when Marvin broke his wrist on that swinging bridge.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that
that
bridge.
bridge. And I thought I was just going to say something about that, and I thought, I think it was. It had a swinging bridge, and I'm thinking. But then, and then we went to Merrimack Caverns, and they'd take us on vacations when they could afford it, you know.
And
But like I said, as the older ones married and moved away, he was able to do more with the younger ones, him and her. But
Well, if you could describe your dad, all three of you, I'd like to hear from each one of you. If you could describe your dad and say 2 or 3 words, what would you say?
what I would say,
I'm
Just
speaking
off the top of your
time.
head.
oh, one way.
Orange.
honest, loving, gentle, caring,
Okay.
I mean,
He was a wonderful person and a wonderful dad.
They just said it all. You couldn't ask for a better person,
he,
and you could talk to him.
Yeah.
You know, he would listen to you.
Yeah.
He was just.
he was,
He was. He was. He
astonished,
was.
really, for what
The
he went through.
honesty.
was one-
He was the most honest person I think I've ever known in my life.
I was with him at the store one time, and they gave him a dime too much back in change, and he made sure he went back in and gave that back.
Yeah, he
He
was.
would not take a penny over what, you know, he was a really honest, loving, I don't know, they're just,
And what's so
There's-
good about it is not only us saying this and seeing this and him. You can ask anybody that knew him.
that knew
Well,
him.
even me,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that they'll tell you the same thing. I mean, it wasn't, you know, like a lot of people's they're not gonna speak bad of their parents or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But you ain't gonna find, if you find one person in this town that say one thing bad about him, I'd like to see him.
Yeah,
I really would.
because
Well, you
there's,
know,
We'll beat them up.
there's not very many men in this world that went to the war and come home, married a woman with 4 little kids, and had 4 more on top of them, and raised and stuck by us all that time.
Yeah.
and treated us all the same.
Yep,
There was nobody more equal, you know.
yep. He was the one who walked you guys all down the aisle. Well, he did me too,
Yeah,
but
yeah, he was there.
just,
All right, well, we thank you very much. Thank you, Mike.